A single dad helps a woman in uniform during a storm. What follows is a quiet, tender journey of second chances, found family, and the healing power of love. Before we begin, if you believe in the quiet magic of kindness and healing with love, subscribe, and let's walk this path together. The sky wasn't supposed to do that. Not in late April. Not in a town so small the weather vanes rusted before they ever spun. But tonight, the sky cracked like a jaw, wide, raw, and hungry. Ethan Hale hunched over the steering wheel of his old Ford pickup, eyes squinting through blades of rain that hadn't let up for an hour. The windshield wipers gave it their best shot, slashing back and forth with the enthusiasm of the underpaid. The road was black soup, the kind that sucked in tires and prayers alike. "Is it a tornado?" came the voice beside him, small and feather-light. His daughter, Lily, clutched a music folder to her chest like a shield. "Nope," Ethan replied gently, keeping his voice low, even. "Just a strong storm. Nothing to worry about." He didn't add "not yet." She was 8. She didn't need the weight of yet. They'd left her piano lesson 10 minutes before the sky turned into a drum line. Now they were headed home through the old county road, the one that sliced past cornfields and a shuttered gas station no one had the heart to tear down. Lily craned her neck to look up through the windshield. "I liked the thunder before." From the window, he smiled sideways. "It's a lot friendlier behind glass." A bolt of lightning lit the horizon, forked and wild. In its brief flash, Ethan caught sight of a stalled vehicle up ahead. Smoke. Hood popped. Hazard lights blinking like a dying heartbeat. Someone was out there. As they rolled closer, the figure came into view, a woman in uniform, soaked to the bone, bracing against the wind while struggling with a wrench in hand. The Jeep's engine bay hissed. Ethan slowed. Not enough to stop. Just enough to think. Plenty of reasons not to pull over. Lily. The storm. The time. The warnings on the radio. But Ethan's hands were already turning the wheel before his mind caught up. "Daddy," Lily asked. "Just for a second," he murmured. "Someone needs help." He pulled up alongside the woman, rolled the passenger window down halfway. The wind shoved water through the gap. "You stuck?" he called out. The woman didn't flinch. She stood straight, wrench in one hand, the other on her hip like she'd stared down worse. Her hair was plastered to her forehead, streaked with mud. Camouflage fatigues clung to her like a second skin. "Fan belt snapped," she yelled over the storm. "Radio's dead. And the tow line I called an hour ago still hasn't shown. You want a lift?" Ethan asked. The woman's gaze flicked to the back seat, where Lily watched, wide-eyed but calm. A flicker of caution passed over the soldier's face, professional, wary. Then she nodded once. "Appreciate it." She climbed into the cab with military precision, soaking everything within 5 seconds. She nodded at Lily with the kind of stiff kindness that came from having forgotten how to talk to children. "Captain Ava Carter," she said, breath still catching. "Ethan, this is my daughter, Lily." "Ma'am," Lily piped, trying on respect like it was a new pair of boots. Ava blinked, then gave a brief smile. "Hello there." Thunder rumbled close this time, shaking the steering wheel under Ethan's fingers. He shifted back into drive. "You headed toward town?" he asked. "Trying to reach a depot north of Dunley. Orders change, and I'm in transition," she answered. He nodded, parsing that to mean, "I'm technically still enlisted, probably recently back, and no one's expecting me soon." "Well, we can take you part of the way," Ethan said. "But if this rain keeps up, we'll need shelter before long." As if summoned, the radio squawked to life. "Tornado warning for Shaw County. Seek shelter immediately. Do not attempt to drive through flooded areas." "I repeat." Ethan turned the dial down. "We'll cut through Maple Hollow," he muttered. "Church basement there usually opens up during storms like this." Ava nodded, as if she'd already memorized the backup plan. The road dipped and climbed. The silence between the three of them was tense, but not awkward. like people who respected quiet because they'd been through too much noise already. Lily whispered, "Is she a hero?" Ava shifted. Ethan glanced at her. She didn't answer. "She helped people," Ethan said quietly. "That's what heroes do." Rain clattered harder. The trees lining the road bowed like they were praying. They passed a pickup stuck sideways in a ditch. No sign of the driver. By the time they reached the old church on the hill, its white siding shining ghostly under lightning. The wind had picked up enough to push against the truck. Ethan parked close. He led Lily in first, shielding her with his coat. Ava followed, her boots squelching with each step. Inside, the basement was already half filled. Older folks, a few families, some teens on phones trying to catch a signal. Candlelight flickered along the walls. A volunteer handed out dry blankets and bottled water. Ethan found them a corner. Lily curled up on a cot, head on Ethan's lap. Ava removed her jacket, revealing a long-sleeved black thermal undershirt and arms mottled with faded bruises and one stitched scar. "Got caught between two sandbags or wall during a blast," she said, catching Ethan's glance. He didn't ask further. She didn't offer more. He handed her a thermos from his bag, still warm. Ava took it with both hands, letting the steam rise to her face like prayer. "I hate this part," she murmured. "The storm, the waiting," she corrected. Ethan watched her a moment, then shifted to tuck Lily's blanket under her chin. "You can sit with us if you want," he said. "I'm sitting." "I meant properly." She hesitated, then slid off the plastic chair and sat on the floor beside the cot. She reached out, surprised at herself, and gently fixed a fallen strand of Lily's hair. "She reminds me of someone," she said softly. "Your daughter?" Ava blinked. "No, never had kids. Not sure I'm cut for that." Lily stirred, mumbled something incoherent, and nestled into Ethan's side again. "You'd be surprised what people are cut for," Ethan said. "Sometimes it's a storm that tells you." Ava gave a low laugh. "You a pastor?" He smiled. "Hardware store manager. But I stock a lot of metaphors on the side." A pause stretched between them. "Comfortable now." Somewhere upstairs, the door rattled in frame. The volunteer called for quiet as the radio crackled out another warning. The storm wasn't done yet. Ava pulled her phone from her pocket. Checked it. Still no bars. She set it down. Ethan's eyes followed the movement. "You expecting a call?" "Not anymore," she said, too quickly. He didn't press. Eventually, Lily's breathing slowed. Ava leaned back against the wall, arms crossed, watching the candlelight flicker like gunfire. "I don't know what happens next," she said quietly. Ethan glanced down at his daughter, then up at the soldier beside them. "Maybe something good," he said, and outside the wind screamed. Rain-burned dawn crept over Shaw County like a tired apology, revealing the wreckage in strokes of pewter and ash. Fence posts leaned as if exhausted. Crows paced the slick blacktop, pausing only when Ethan's pickup rolled past, tires whispering through puddles that mirrored a hollowed-out sky. Ethan Hale drove slowly, knuckles white on the wheel, every tremor of the engine amplified inside his chest. He kept watching the side mirror, checking on the woman half asleep in the back seat. Captain Ava Carter's head rested against the window. Each breath fogged and cleared the glass, a Morse code of uncertainty. Beside Ethan, Lily dozed in her booster, arms wrapped around her folder of sheet music. One muddy sneaker dangled, twitching whenever the truck crunched over fallen twigs. Strips of early light threaded through the cab, painting her freckles the color of ember sparks. They had left the church basement an hour earlier, after the all-clear siren croaked like an aging rooster. The shelter volunteers pressed stale muffins into their hands, blessing them with weary smiles. Outside, something in Ethan heard the road calling, a low hum that promised forward motion, if not direction. The county road unfolded in silence. Here and there, farmers already stood in their fields, surveying snapped telephone poles, as if these splintered trunks were loved ones returned from war. Ava's eyelids fluttered each time the truck hit a pothole. even in sleep her fingers curled, ready to grip an invisible rifle. A lone red barn appeared, its tin roof peeled back like an unsewn wound. Rainwater cascaded off one jagged edge, catching a shard of sunlight and breaking it into trembling mirrors. Ethan found himself slowing to look, unsure whether he was counting damages or searching for blessings disguised as debris. His stomach growled at the same moment Lily's did. He chuckled softly, an ember of normalcy. A green highway sign loomed, Rosie's Roadside Diner. 2 miles. Rosie's, where the coffee burned hot and forgiveness came in the shape of buttermilk biscuits. He nudged Lily's shoulder. Breakfast stop. She blinked awake, combed her tangled hair with fingers. Will she be hungry? Probably. Ethan answered, glancing back. Soldiers run on calories and caffeine. Lily traced a heart on the fog window, the gift of a child who still believed drawing love into thin air might make it stay. At Rosie's, generators droned behind the building, puffing diesel exhaust that smelled like scorched earth. Inside, battery lanterns and half-melted candles cast golden islands on linoleum. Booths overflowed with stranded travelers passing ketchup bottles like flares. Ethan guided Ava to a corner table. She nodded a silent thanks, brushing rain-stiff hair behind her ears. The sleeve of her fatigued jacket dragged across the formica, leaving a snail trail of river mud. She didn't notice. Her eyes kept scanning exits, corners, ceiling tiles, ghosts of protocol she couldn't outpace. A waitress with mascara streaks delivered 3 chip mugs and a pot of coffee, so strong it smelled medicinal. She winked at Lily, slid a pancake the size of a hubcap onto the table. No charge. The syrup was cold, but Lily smiled like it was honey warmed by sunlight. Mid-bite, Ava's dog tag slipped from the neck of her shirt and clinked against her cup. A hush seemed to ripple outward. Patrons at neighboring tables leaned in, curiosity sparking faster than gossip. Ava swallowed, tucked the tags away, and reached for a coffee with hands that trembled just once. Ethan caught the tremor. He looked down at his own plate, fried eggs, half an orange, and felt ridiculous for thinking food could heal a woman who'd slept in dust storms and rocket fire. He wanted to offer something bigger, but kindness often arrived in small utensils. So he buttered a biscuit, tore it open, and slid the warmer half to her side of the plate. No words, just a gesture. Ava stared at it as though he'd handed her a map home. She exhaled, shoulders dropping a fraction. "Thank you," she whispered, voice coarse from disuse. "Fuel," he replied. Lily sipped chocolate milk, observing them both with 8-year-old clairvoyance. "I draw better after pancakes," she announced, licking syrup from her wrist. "Maybe you'll feel better, too." Ava's lip curved, one-side smile. "Maybe I will." Outside, pale sunlight fractured through restless clouds, but nothing felt stable yet. When they climbed back into the truck, the dampness clung like an unearned sorrow. The highway north curled beside an endless lake, its surface bruised by wind. White caps slapped the stone embankment, rhythmic as a metronome. Ava pressed her forehead to the window, eyes tracking gulls that hovered over the water, then vanished into spray. She wondered if they liked the ache in their wings. Ethan lifted a thermos from the cup holder. "Still hot, if you want." She accepted. The lid hissed. She drank slowly, letting steam wash her face. The coffee bore a hint of cinnamon, unexpected, gentle. It reminded her of winters when she and her sister would steal cinnamon sticks from their mother's pantry and stir them into cocoa until the milk blushed brown. The truck's engine coughed. Ethan frowned, tapping the gauge. Temps climbing. Mile marker 71 drifted past. He eased onto a gravel turnout beside the lake. Steam billowed from beneath the hood, curling like ghosts into the chill. "Sorry, kiddo," he said to Lily. "Quick pit stop." Lily did not complain. Storms had taught her patience. She shuffled to the edge of the turnout, sending pebbles skittering toward the water. The horizon looked like pewter hammered thin. Ava popped the hood with practiced motion. Ethan propped it open, squinting through steam. Radiator hose split. Water hissed. He removed his jacket, started unspooling duct tape. Ava joined him, hands steady despite the heat. They worked in wordless rhythm. Unwrap, bind, tighten. Fingers briefly brushing, then pulling back as if contact were alive while they weren't yet ready to test. Wind carried Lily's hum, an off-key tune about rainbows and brave cats. She plucked wildflowers poking through gravel, arranging them in an old glass bottle she'd found half buried near the tire track. The bottle caught sunlight, scattering flecks of emerald across her sneakers. Ethan tightened the clamp. Should hold till the next town. Ava nodded. Good hands. Yours too. She wiped grease on her pant leg. Can't stitch people without learning how to patch machines. The breeze tugged her dog tags again. This time Ethan reached out, almost touching them before catching himself. Medic. Flight nurse, she corrected softly. Out past the river border. He gave a low whistle. I heard stories. Stories are lighter than truth, Ava murmured. Lily approached, holding out the bottle of flowers. These need a dashboard, she pronounced solemnly. Ava knelt, accepting the offering. The petals were rain-bruised gold. Best co-pilot I've ever had. Lily giggled, darting back inside the cab. Ava remained crouched, eyes on the petals. Her thumb brushed one torn edge, as tender as if she mended it. Ethan closed the hood, turned to her. You okay? She opened her mouth, closed it, and finally nodded, trying to be. That was honest enough. By midday, they reached the reserve depot, a squat concrete maze wreathed in concertina wire. A tattered flag flapped overhead, its edges eaten by wind. Vehicles lined up in front like forgotten chess pieces, each painted the same exhausted green. Ethan parked, engine ticking. Ava stepped out, smoothing her jacket, wiping road dust from her boots. She looked suddenly smaller without a rifle or convoy at her back. A soldier at the gate scanned her ID, then squinted at his tablet, confusion furrowing. He disappeared inside a guard shack, emerged moments later with an officer whose bars glinted cold. Ethan watched from the driver's seat, Lily's hand folded inside his. The officer spoke, lips moving like scissors. Ava's spine stiffened. She nodded once, asked a question that seemed to land nowhere. The officer shook his head, apology or indifference. It was hard to tell. Ava's shoulders slumped beneath an invisible weight. She turned and walked back to the truck, eyes unfocused. Ethan climbed out to meet her halfway. What happened? Paperwork glitch, she said, voice flat. My reassignment canceled. They don't know where to place me. She laughed without humor. Guess the system lost track of me in the storm, too. Wind whipped strands of her hair across her cheeks. She didn't brush them away. So what's next? Ethan asked. Ava lifted dog tags between thumb and forefinger, as though divining answers from scratched metal. I don't know. A cluster of camo-clad privates hurried past, laughing about something trivial. Energy drinks or weekend leave. None of them noticed a woman suddenly adrift at the depot gate. Ava swallowed. Come on, Ethan said gently. We're not leaving you stranded. He steered her back into the truck. Lily leaned forward between the seats, tapping a blank page in her music folder. I'm drawing us again, she announced. Teacher says pictures help feelings stay put. Ethan started the engine. The hose patch held. The gauge hovered. As they pulled away, Ava kept staring at the depot shrinking in the mirror, as if hoping it would call her back and clarify the mistake. It did not. The highway stretched ahead, ribboned with mirages of heat rising from recent rain. Ava rested her forehead on the cool glass, eyes closing. When she opened them, Ethan caught a reflection, lonely, determined, a flicker of fear she hadn't shown before. Clouds broke open in the late afternoon, shedding a delicate sunlight that smelled like wet wheat. Ethan guided the truck onto a dusty service road, leading toward his hometown. Cooper's Crossing. Population 2,000 when everyone's home, fewer after last night's mischief in the sky. They passed a sign hammered crooked. Bridge out 3 miles. Beside it, a hand-painted arrow pointed toward the county fairgrounds, repurposed for local relief. Tents flapped like albino whales breaching out of grass. Ethan hesitated. How about a stop? Ava nodded, consent or indifference, he couldn't tell. Lily squealed approval. Fairs meant funnel cakes even on disaster days. Volunteers waved them in, directing vehicles with orange batons. A winter-capped grandma handed Lily a box lunch, calling her sweetheart. Another volunteer thrust a toolkit at Ethan. If you can fix, we can use you. He glanced at Ava. She gave a fractional nod, a silent go-ahead. While Ethan disappeared under a tractor with 2 mechanics, Ava drifted among the tents like a ghost searching for her own name. Children chased each other with pinwheels fashioned from styrofoam plates. A pastor prayed with a family whose roof had lifted entire off their house. Everywhere, need, hope, duct tape. Ava's boot stopped near a triage tent. Instinct took over. She rolled sleeves, tied hair back with an elastic from her wrist, and stepped inside. A boy cried on a cot, ankle-wrapped. Ava crouched, coaxed a smile from him by folding glove wrappers into tiny paper boats. An EMT offered her antiseptic wipes like a communion wafer. She accepted, hands steady. Outside, clouds parted further. Sunlight spilled amber across white canvas, turning the triage tent into a cathedral of makeshift grace. When Ethan found her hours later, she was still there, measuring pulses, whispering comfort. His chest tightened at the sight. Not relief, not admiration. Something deeper, a recognition that people sometimes belonged where they bled for others. He waited until she finished tying a bandage on an elderly man's wrist. She removed gloves, exhaled, then met Ethan's eyes. For the first time, she looked lighter. Thought you hated waiting, he said softly. This isn't waiting, she replied. This is working. They walked back to the truck, beneath a sky the color of opening petals. Lily trailed behind, face sticky with powdered sugar and triumph. She won a tattered teddy bear at a ring toss someone cobbled together for the kids. Night crept in lavender. The patch in the radiator hose had begun to fray. Steam curled again, faint but insistent. Ethan scratched his chin. Garage apartments got a bed. You can stay until we figure things out. Ava did not answer right away. She studied the horizon where the road melted into ink, then turned to him. What if I break whatever piece you have? Ethan opened the passenger door for her. Storm already did that, he murmured. We're rebuilding anyway. Her lips parted to refuse, to accept. Instead, she climbed in, setting the teddy bear on the dash, so it faced forward, a ridiculous sentinel. Behind them, the fairground lights blurred. Ahead, crickets tuned their lonesome instruments, readying a symphony for those who dare keep driving after dark. They reached Ethan's house just after 10, a modest one-story near a cluster of oaks, porch lights flicking on by motion sensor, as if surprised to see anyone this late. Shingles glittered damp, but the windows glowed warm. Lily shuffled inside first, holding her new teddy under one arm and the folder of drawings under the other. Ethan guided Ava to the detached garage, converted years ago into a small apartment after his father had fallen ill. The door squeaked open on memories, untouched for months, yet dust smelled like cedar. A single lamp waited on a pine nightstand. When Ethan flipped the switch, amber filled the room, chasing shadows to corners. Ava stepped in cautiously, like a soldier clearing a bunker. The bed was neatly made, though the quilt bore faded patches from decades of washes. A jar of dried lavender sat on the sill, scent still clinging to brittle stems. You can see the sunrise from that window, Ethan said, pointing to the east-facing glass. Tomorrow it'll be brighter. Ava brushed fingertips across the quilt. I haven't had a room of my own in a long time. He placed a house key on the dresser. No curfew. Bathrooms through that door. If the water runs rusty at first, just let it clear. She nodded, turning the key between fingers. Metal caught lamplight. casting flickers across the walls, tiny constellations inside worn paint. Ethan paused at the doorway. You need anything, holler. What if I need silence? He smiled softly. Plenty of that, too. He left, closing the door, but not all the way. Ava listened to his footsteps fade across gravel, then exhaled a breath she'd been holding since the depot. She sat on the bed, unlaced boots, placed them side by side, stilled attention even when off duty. From the pocket of her jacket, she withdrew a folded letter, edges frayed. She opened it, eyes skimming handwriting she knew by heart. Ava, you saved me once. If you ever need saving, come home. Signed with a name crossed out by sand and time. Home. She glanced at the key shining on the dresser. Moonlight found its way through the window, spilling a pale path from door to bed. She lay back, holding the letter over her heart, and for the first time in months allowed her eyelids to close without rehearsing exit routes. Across the yard, Ethan stood in his own doorway, watching the garage apartment's lamp extinguish. Night insects hummed. He felt the day's fatigue seep from his bones, replaced by something cautious yet bright, like the feeling of soil finally warm enough to plant seeds. Inside Lily's room, a small desk lamp illuminated her latest drawing. 3 stick figures beneath a broad rainbow. She had labeled them with single letters, E, L, and, tentatively, A. Ethan kissed her forehead, whispering that he was proud. She murmured half asleep, We're a team now, right? He nodded, throat tight. She never saw. He returned to the porch, sat on the swing his late wife had painted robin's egg blue. From the garage window glimmered one steady sliver of light, the kind that leaks around edges when someone isn't quite ready to surrender to darkness. The air smelled of wet earth and distant lilacs. Ethan rocked gently, the chains creaking like an old lullaby. Somewhere in the apartment, Ava's dog tags clinked as she placed them on the nightstand, a sound quiet as a promise laid down rather than carried. And above them all, stars pried themselves through thinning cloud, shy but insistent, taking their places one by one as if guided by unseen hands. Morning mist curled around the oaks like pale ribbon. Through the open window of the garage apartment, Ava felt the world exhale. For the first time in years, she woke without an alarm, without orders, without the taste of desert sand on her tongue. She lay still, listening. Somewhere in the main house at Kettleside, cupboard doors clicked, and a child's slippered feet pattered a fast rhythm down a hallway. The sounds were ordinary, almost fragile. She closed her eyes and let them settle on her skin like warm rain. On the nightstand, her dog tags rested where she'd placed them, metal dull by candlelight. Beside them lay Lily's folded drawing, a rainbow spanning 3 stick figures, the middle one labeled with careful, looping A. Ava brushed the paper's edge, feeling color rather than seeing it. A knock, gentle enough to be a suggestion. She sat up. Breakfast. Ethan called through the door. No hurry. She met a reflection in a small mirror above a pine dresser. Hair loose, circles under eyes faded to a pale bruise. Nothing heroic here, just a woman borrowing peace. She pulled on jeans and a sweater the scent of cedar had claimed months ago. The kitchen smelled of cinnamon and wood polish. Lily sat at the table, legs swinging, stacking toast triangles like bricks. She looked up, face bright. Morning, Captain Ava. Ava saluted with 2 fingers, letting the gesture collapse into a smile. Permission to sit? Granted, Lily decreed, cheeks rounding because authority tasted sweet when drizzled with maple. Ethan slid a mug across the table. Steam curled from black coffee, a thin silver helix. I found the cinnamon again, he said, hiding behind the salt. Spice insurgency, Ava replied. It earned her his quiet laugh, low and rolling, one of those sounds that make a morning anchor itself to memory. Outside, sun breached the tree lean, pouring slender gold blades through the window. Dust motes danced like particles of yesterday, unhurried, glowing. After dishes, Ethan shrugged into a canvas jacket. I promised the playground committee I'd haul lumber at 10. They're rebuilding a slide that snapped in the storm. He lifted the thermos. Could use a co-driver. Ava felt the weight of the invitation and the gentle freedom inside it. No demand, only space offered. She nodded. Let me grab my boots. Lily tapped her drawing. Can I come after school? I have a rainbow to install. Deal, Ethan said. They drove into town with the windows cracked enough for cool air to carry the scent of wet soil and distant lilac. The truck rattled over potholes, but the patched radiator hummed steady. Ava's boots rested on the dash beside Lily's flower bottle, petals now papery, but still defiantly yellow. At the playground, volunteers clustered like migrating birds around piles of splintered lumber. Hammers rang, laughter sparked, and sawdust drifted in sunlight. Children hovered at the edges, inventing games out of caution tape. Ava stepped from the truck and rolled her sleeves. A man handed her a cordless drill before even asking her name. She took it, testing the trigger's soft growl, familiar as a heartbeat. Hours passed marked only by the slow rotation of shadows underneath the swings. Ava fitted beams, tightened bolts, matched strangers' pace until strangers felt less so. When her arms tired, an elderly woman pressed a paper cup of lemonade into her hands, eyes crinkled with the gratitude of someone astonished by unexpected help. Across the field, Ethan knelt beneath the new slide, driving lag screws. Sun lit the fine sweat along his neck. Ava watched him a moment. The way's steady effort turned his shoulders into wordless reassurance. She took another swallow of tart sweetness, memory deepening like a well. By afternoon, the structure stood whole again, red paint gleaming rag-wet under sky wiped clean. A small boy hovered at the ladder, eyes wide. Ava held out her hand. He placed his gummy palm in hers, climbed each rung, heart rattling in his chest like marbles in a jar. At the top he paused, uncertain. Ava crouched on the mulch below, arms open. He let go, slid, laughter erupting like a startled bird. When he landed, he barreled into her embrace and didn't let go right away. Later, while volunteers swept sawdust into neat amber drifts, Ethan approached with 2 bottled waters. He offered one. Their fingers touched, brief spark, deliberate pause. Thank you, he said. I needed this more than they did, she answered. A cloud banked westward, dark edge but slow. Ethan studied it. Then her, storms don't last forever. They just paint longer shadows for a while. She opened her mouth, perhaps to argue, perhaps to agree, but the words tangled into silence. Instead, she touched the water to her forehead, the plastic cool. Behind her eyelids, desert sun bruised memory. She breathed until the picture faded. School dismissal bell trilled distant. Lily arrived on a borrowed bicycle too big for her frame, pedals chunking. She carried the rainbow, drawing rolled like a diplomat's decree. Can we put in the slide tower? She asked. Ava lifted her onto the platform where hours earlier the boy had hesitated. Together, they taped the drawing against the side panel. Color fluttered in the wind, a sail for imaginary voyages. Ethan leaned on a support beam, arms crossed, hiding a smile that refused to stay hidden. For a moment, small, incandescent, Ava felt the playground revolve around the 3 of them, centrifugal force pinning grief to the edges. They drove home in hushes, Lily half asleep against Ava's shoulder, sticky from lemonade and triumph. Ethan tuned the radio to a classical station faint enough to sound like music underwater. Dust found them on the porch, chairs angled toward a sky-streaked lavender. Lily sprawled on a quilt, sketching clouds into dragons. Ethan handed Ava a mug of chamomile, steam curling up to meet the first evening star. Wind-stirred chimes made from mason jar lids, Ethan's late wife's project, still offering music long after her voice had left the rooms. Ava listened, imagining the woman who had chosen to hang music where silence threatened. She wrapped both hands around the mug, warming the ache in her palms. Ethan turned the page of a service manual for her Jeep. Found the part numbers, he murmured. We'll have you road ready soon. She watched him, the careful way he traced diagrams as though paper were fragile wings. Why help me? The question slipped out softer than she meant. He closed the book, considered the horizon before speaking. Because someone helped me once when I was too proud to ask. Ava sensed the rest of the story hovering like distant thunder, not ready to break. She nodded, accepting the unfinished truth, as one accepts whether that will arrive in its own time. Later, after Lily's bathwater quieted and bedtime story whispers bled into dreams, Ethan walked Ava to the garage apartment. Porch light carved a golden path across gravel. Midway she stopped, gaze on a planter of marigolds wilted by wind. My mother planted those every year, she said. Said they guarded a house. Ethan knelt, pinched a dead bloom, revealing green beneath. Then we'll bring them back. She watched the petals fall, orange surrendering to soil. Something in her chest loosened, not a knot untied, but a loop allowed to widen. Inside, the apartment smelled of lavender and new coffee grounds. Ethan placed a small wooden box on the dresser, spare pieces from the Jeep, in case you collect misplaced things. She traced the lid. Thank you. He lingered in the doorway. Lamplight mapped delicate lines beside his eyes. Rest well, Ava. Good night, Ethan. The door clicked. She stood alone with the box, the letter, the dog tags. 3 anchors. Past, present, promise. She opened the box. Washers, bolts, a tiny compass keychain meant for a kid's backpack. The compass needle quivered, then pointed due east, toward morning. She set the compass on the nightstand, laid the dog tags beside it, hesitated, then slipped the tags underneath the compass. Metal vanished beneath plastic. The soldier tucked beneath something that searched for new directions. Sleep came in slow tides, carrying dreams where rotor blades dissolved into windmills rolling over wheat, and uniform fabric turned to cotton sundresses fluttering on a line. Days stacked like quiet stones. Each dawn, Ethan packed Lily's lunch, triangle sandwiches, a sticky note with a doodle. Ava brewed coffee, slid a second mug across without asking. Sometimes her fingers brushed. Sometimes words filled the space instead. She walked Lily to the bus stop, pocket stuffed with tissues, because 8-year-olds can cry about shoelaces or constellations disappearing at dawn. While Lily traveled school corridors, Ava mended the town, sorting canned goods at the relief center, replacing shingles on Mrs. Whitaker's roof, teaching a teenager how to tie a proper sling. Her laugh began to echo through streets that had forgotten what fearless sounded like. On moonless nights, Ava's flashbacks slipped through cracks. Rotor wash, blood, night vision blooming red. She would jolt awake, lungs wildfire. Across the yard, a soft porch light glowed. Ethan would appear, silent silhouette in doorway, offering presents rather than interrogation. He carried a battered thermos of warm milk, a holdover from night's Lily battle fever. They'd sit on the garage steps, shoulders nearly touching, until the ghost retreated beyond tree line. One Saturday the town held a pancake fundraiser inside the high school gym to buy new library windows. Long tables sagged under skillets and stories. Ava volunteered at the batter station, flour dusting her hair like late snow. When the principal announced they were still $200 short, Ethan nudged Ava's elbow. She nodded toward Lily, and Lily pulled her hand-painted teddy bear jar from a tote. Inside rattled coin and folded bills. Her allowance, harvest of 2 fairy quarters, plus whatever Ava had slipped in the night before. The jar made its way down the aisle, followed by children's laughter rising like him. Afterward, as chairs scraped and lights dimmed, the principal pressed a bookmark into Ava's palm, hand-cut paper embossed with the school crest. For courage in small measures, he said. She tucked it into her back pocket, as if it were a medal. That evening, Ethan's ex-wife Dana arrived unannounced, headlights sweeping the drive like accusatory searchlights. She wore city shoes that sank into the damp earth. Lily ran out, half hugging her mother, half glancing at Ava, who stood on the porch in work jeans and a borrowed flannel. Dana's eyes assessed the scene. Marigolds reviving, porch swing patched, strangers sharing space. "Looks different here," she said. "Storm rearranged things," Ethan answered. Dana's gaze landed on Ava. "And you are—" "Just helping," Ava replied, voice steady. Dana studied her. The faded scars, the posture still half-parade rest. Something edged past across Dana's face. Envy, curiosity, fear of replacement. She knelt to fix Lily's collar, fingers trembling. "I'll take you Friday, okay?" she whispered. Lily looked at Ava, then her father, confusion flickering like moth wings. Ava crouched, meeting Lily's eyes. "Family's big enough for more than one house," she said quietly. "You'll be safe wherever love lives." Dana's shoulders softened. She stood, nodding once at Ava, gratitude folded inside surrender. When she drove away, gravel clicking, nighttime filled the space she left. Ethan exhaled. "Thank you. That could have gone worse." Ava lifted one shoulder. "I speak complicated families." They walked back to porch. Wind smelled of river stones and late plum blossoms. Without thinking, Ethan reached for her hand. She let him, fingers fitting as if pre-measured. They stood like that until Lily called them in for cocoa. Weeks unfurled, gentle increments. The Jeep's engine purred again. Ethan refused payment beyond Ava's promise to keep the compass. In the evenings they sat on the porch swing, Lily curled between them, watching fireflies test new circuits in the dark. One night the generators in town finally went silent. Grid power returned, houses blinking awake like astonished eyes. Street lamps spilled soft halos, revealing every porch step, every repaired shingle. The sudden brightness felt almost indecent. Ethan fetched 3 glass jars. They unscrewed the lids, captured fireflies with cupped hands, and released them into the electric glow. For a moment, insect light mingled with manufactured light, wild sparks dancing among halogen beams. Ava laughed, a clean ringing sound, and Lily clapped until the last firefly vanished beyond the mailbox. Inside the garage apartment, Ava retrieved a letter that had slept beneath her pillow each night. Edges frayed, ink blurred where tears once fell. She unfolded it, read the lines aloud to quiet room. "If you ever need saving, come home." She folded it again, slid it into the wooden box among spare bolts, letting it rest beside the compass, pass beside possibility. Then she carried the box outside. Ethan stood near the marigolds, fingering a trowel. Moonlight silvered his profile. She placed the box at his feet. "Bury it for me?" she asked. He studied her face, saw that she meant it. Without a word, he knelt, dug a shallow square in the soil beneath the newly blooming flowers, and lowered the box. Earth thudded softly, covering secrets. Petals brushed his wrist. Ava whispered something he couldn't hear, perhaps a prayer, perhaps goodbye. She sank to her knees beside him. Their shoulders touched, steadying. Lily watched from the porch, knowing without knowing, arms wrapped around her rainbow-striped teddy bear. Wind sighed through oak branches. The same hush that comes after a lullaby, but before sleep claims a house. Ava pressed her palm to the fresh mound, feeling pulse below, and breathed deep. "Home," she said. Ethan's hand covered hers. Soil cool under their joined palms, hearts warmer above. Rain-warmed evening light pooled over Coopers, crossing away honey settles in a spoon. Slow, golden, inevitable. Ava stood on the schoolhouse lawn, beneath paper lanterns strung, like low constellations. A year had cycled since the storm cracked the town sky, and tonight the people gathered to honor what hadn't been carried off by the wind. From the bandstand a fiddle weapon owed him, its notes drifting through the scent of kettle corn and fresh pine. She shifted, feeling the hum of other hearts close to her own. Children raced between picnic tables, ribbons pinned to their shirts reading Junior First Responder. Lily wore hers like a medal, hair braided in a crown, cheeks stained strawberry red. Every so often she glanced toward Ava, offering a grin that said, "Don't float away," then vanished again into laughter. Ethan anchored a plankin sawhorse booth for the silent auction. Sleeves rolled, forearms striped with sawdust. When their eyes met across the dusk, a smile flickered. Steady, familiar, charged like ember under ash. Ava touched the inside of her wrist where her pulse answered, quiet but certain. Mayor Carter. No relation. Small-town irony. Took the microphone and thanked the fire chief, the nurses, the church ladies who'd ladled soup in a blackout. At Ava's name, the crowd's applause swelled. She inclined her head, but the noise pressed on her ribs. Praise still felt like armor 2 sizes too tight. Lily darted to the stage steps, carrying a cardboard box painted starlit blue. "Captain Ava helped me fix the playground," she announced, voice quivering but brave. "So I made this." She opened the lid. Inside lay drawings of rainbows, stick-figure firefighters, a crayon jeep rocketing over mud puddles. One page showed 3 figures under a marigold sun, the E, the L, the ever bolder A. The crowd murmured tenderness. Ava felt her chest loosen, threads untying from the inside. She swallowed, raised a hand in thanks, unable to speak past the knot of light in her throat. After speeches, the sky settled into velvet. Edison bulbs flickered on the perimeter fence, casting overlapping halos. Ethan appeared beside her with 2 paper cups of lemonade, cold enough to sting her fingertips. He tipped his head toward the parking lot. "Have a minute?" She followed across grass damp with dew. Music faded behind them, until only cicadas filled the pauses. Near the lot, a tarp-covered shape crouched under the flood lamp, its outline patient. Ethan stopped, palms sliding into pockets like someone calming a secret. He tugged the rope. The tarp folded away, rippling to ground. Her Jeep gleamed ocean-deep midnight. Every dent coaxed smooth, panels kissed with fresh paint. On the bumper, Lily's rainbow decal, curved like a promise. A new license plate caught the light. Home. For a breath, she was 16 again, accepting her first set of keys. 27. Gripping a flight stick over desert. 31. Hanging dog tags beside a compass. All versions blended, circled, settled in her bones. Her hand lifted, hovered over Fender as though touching a fragile animal. "I kept the miles," Ethan murmured. "Just replace what was broken." Wind murmured through cottonwoods, shaking a hush around them. Ava traced the letters on the plate, the ridged metal cool. "You built me a landing strip," she whispered. He shrugged, eyes warm. Everyone deserves one safe approach. Behind the windshield rested a sealed envelope with the Army crest. She recognized the courier's tape, official, clinical, tempting. Ethan slipped it through the open window to her. "Postman handed me this morning. Figured it belongs where you can open it on your terms." Lantern glow wavered. She turned the envelope, weightless yet heavy as a drawn breath. Re-enlistment? Apology? The service always spoke in forms. Crickets thrummed. Ethan waited, not pushing. She ran a thumb beneath the flap. Papers slid free. Advisory of reinstatement with full status. Availability for a stateside training command. No front lines. No rotors slicing moonlight. A path back to the uniform she had shed like tired skin. A gust flipped one page, revealing a line in bureaucratic font. Respond within 30 days. 30 days, or a lifetime's new architecture. Lily's laughter rang across the field, bright as a dropped bell. Ava folded the letter, slid it into her pocket. "Not tonight," she said. "Fair," Ethan replied. He lifted the Jeep's hood, revealing an engine scrubbed clean, the hose they'd taped now replaced with polished steel. A small brass compass was epoxied to the frame near the battery, needle steady despite vibration. She recognized it, once buried with her letter, now exhumed, humming northward inside machinery. She laughed, soft storm of disbelief. "You dug it up." "Couldn't let it fade," he said. "Some things guide longer than we plan." She closed the hood, palms flat. The engine ticked, cooling. In the hush, she heard her heartbeat aligning with another's footsteps approaching. Lily, carrying a sparkler sputtering silver. She passed it to Ava. "Make a wish," she ordered. Ava raised the sparkler, scatter of embers swirling up like restless fireflies. She didn't close her eyes. Wishes deserved to be witnessed. Light etched Ethan's face, creases, freckles, hope unguarded. She whispered something only the heat could translate, then planted the spent wire in the soil. Fireworks cracked raw emerald over the river, reflecting shards upon the Jeep's new coat. The crowd cheered. Ava flinched at the echo, but felt Ethan's hand brush the small of her back, grounding. Beside them, Lily leaned her head to Ava's hip, sleepy. "I saved you a funnel cake," she mumbled. "Then I'd better stay," Ava answered, voice thick. Night deepened purple. When lanterns dimmed and volunteers folded tables, the trio drove home. Jeep first, Ethan's truck following, Lily drifting between seats. They crossed a temporary timber bridge spanning the creek the storm had torn apart. Beneath oaks the beams creaked, but held. Ava's tires rolled over boards hammered by neighbors' hands. Each thump felt like punctuation to a sentence finally finishing. Before dawn grayed the horizon, Ava found herself awake, barefoot on dew-slick grass. Let her reopen on her palm. Coyote calls lilted far off, lonely but sure. Porch light spilled soft amber as Ethan stepped out, mug steaming. No words, just shared silence of people who both avoided and survived questions. She offered him the letter. He read, folded it back, returned it. Missed softened outlines, made them both part ghost, part promise. "I thought I knew who I was inside that uniform," she said. "Without it, I felt missing. And now—" She touched the plate on the Jeep, reflecting new sunrise, then Lily's art taped on the window inside. Colors brave against glass. "Now I'm less missing." Ethan's hand rose, hesitated at her cheek, then settled. "Wherever you stand, stay whole." A robin sang, first herald of light. Ava breathed, tasting cold and lilac. "I'll decline," she decided aloud. "Find my own post here." Relief and wonder crossed his face like twin shooting stars. He didn't kiss her, not yet. Instead, he turned, picked a marigold, placed it in her palm, orange bright against morning. They walked to the house. In the kitchen, Lily sat in pajamas, too short at the ankles, drawing a sun with 12 rays. She looked up, saw marigold, saw hands still loosely joined. A smile spread slow, reaching the corners of her hurt-healed heart. Without speaking, she slid a clean page to Ava and nudged a crayon her way. Ava drew a small house beneath the sun, then 3 stick figures, taller, medium, small, standing on grass. Beside them, she sketched a 4th figure, a dog she vowed they'd rescue come spring. Lily squealed approval. Ethan laughed, the sound filling rafters. Clouds gathered by late afternoon, not dark, only thoughtful. They carried cocoa mugs onto the porch swing, storm lullaby tapping tin roof. Lily curled between them, marigold tucked behind her ear, the 3 of them swaying while thunder rumbled polite in the distance, like an old friend announcing arrival, not threat. Ava pressed her shoulder to Ethan's, felt the swing's chain groan, felt Lily's breath steady into sleep. On the coffee table lay the Army's letter, envelope flattened beneath a smooth creek stone. She would mail her refusal tomorrow. Word simple, "I am already where I'm needed." Rain started, glimmering silver beads on porch rail. Ethan reached for a blanket. She draped it over Lily, over them, weaving warmth. Beneath that hush, Ava realized no music played, no rotors, no sirens, just water's patient percussion, and inside her, an echo finally stilled. Lightning stitched a bright thread across the clouds, then died. She closed her eyes, leaning into 2 sure heartbeats. In their quiet, braided together, she found the missing piece had never been a uniform or metal. It was this gentle weight of love settling in ordinary bones. Lily stirred, half dreaming, tapped Ava's wrist. Team, Ava whispered. Thunder rolled soft as distant drums. The swing rocked once more, and the porch light flickered in time with rain. If this story touched you, subscribe or share where you're watching from.